So now I think it's the time to start the session. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to all honorable speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am Najwa Santiwarakun. On behalf of HASIB committees, I would like to express my warm welcome to all of you. Now we are going to have a HASIB program. So I would like to call upon Mr. Rafi-uddin Shikoh, the CEO of and Director of DinarStandard from Dubai, to give a speech on the stage. Please come on the stage. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salatu wassalam ala Rasulih al-Kareem wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajma'in. Start with the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent, and we send our blessings upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It is a pleasure to be here in Thailand, in Bangkok for the first time. It's my first ever visit, so I'm very grateful to Dr. Brunei, to the organizing committee of the Thailand Halal Assembly, and everyone who has worked to put this event together and had me over. My talk is about global halal economy, trends in technology and innovation, and hopefully I will provide a view based on some of the latest trends that are going on around the halal economy space. I always like to start with this ayah from the Quran, the translation of which is, O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. It is always an honor to visit a new country, a new nation, and it's a pleasure to get to know you. And as I said, it's my first visit to Thailand. So my sincere thanks for hosting this event and being part of this global halal economy story. It is amazing to hear and see the type of innovation worldwide that's coming from Thailand in terms of the global halal economy space. And indeed, it is a pleasure to get to know the different culture aspects, the food, and the great people of Thailand. So thank you, and it's a pleasure. So I would like to basically start with a broader picture of halal economy. So, and these are things that many of you already know, but I'd like to give first an overview of that. Number two, we will talk about the available technologies and innovation. Before we go, next we'll go over the halal economy innovations. And then finally, what are the gaps today in halal economy innovation? So a quick overview and summary. One of the things that my company, DinarStandard, does is an annual report called State of the Global Islamic Economy, in which we cover the global landscape of the overall market size, the developments, the key players, and we do it on an annual basis. Alhamdulillah, we just launched the latest, the 5th edition. It's been going on for 5 years, and you can all download it for free. It's available from our website or salamgateway.com. So our website is dinarstandard.com or salamgateway.com. To summarize, we have aggregated, when we look at the halal economy space, we primarily look at these 6 sector categories. Halal food, modest fashion, travel, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, media and recreation. These are our latest numbers, fresh, just launched last week. So in the halal food space, across these 6 sectors collectively, we're talking about global Muslim consumer spending of over $2 trillion in 2016. Within these sectors, this is about 11.9, almost 12% of the global spending. So global consumer spending in these six sectors, Muslim consumer spending is about 12%. This is as of 2016. The exciting thing about the Muslim consumer market is its growth rate. So when you look at the annual growth rate, we've estimated about 7.3% CAGR, which is an annual growth rate from 2016 through 2022, which would result in a market size of $3 trillion, which is $3,000 billion by then. Within each of the sectors, as you can see, food is the most prominent one, which is $1.2 trillion in 2016, going up to $1.9 trillion of consumer spending. Modest fashion is about $200 billion, 169 for travel, 57 in cosmetics, 83 in pharma, so forth. Now, a key thing to mention is this is consumer spending numbers. Doesn't necessarily mean all of these numbers reflect halal certification or halal certified aspects. In halal food, for example, our estimate is around $450 billion of this spending is halal certified today. So that's in regards to what do we mean and cover when we talk about technology and innovation. These are the sectors. Now, when we talk about technology and innovation, as a market-focused, commercial-focused entity, we have to start by the question of why. Why do you want to look at certain technologies in the halal economy? What is its purpose? And so before we talk about the latest technologies or innovation, it's important to have a framework of where it would be applied. So we've developed this short framework which looks at these 6 sectors, but the purpose categorized by the 3 big buckets of consumer needs. So when you look at technology and innovation, there is a need in terms of product design or product innovation. Then within industry efficiency, you have need for technology and innovation related to production efficiency, production cost effectiveness, or in the industry enablers, regulation, compliance. So when we look at technologies application in the compliance process, which a lot of you are immersed in terms of halal compliance certification. So we mostly look at technology here, but there are all these other areas also. Then you have industry distribution. So there's also technology and innovation when it comes to the channels of distribution of products and marketing. But the one big area that no one really talks about, ladies and gentlemen, is, we primarily look at the halal economy in terms of these first 2 buckets. And we forget the 3rd big bucket, which is social impact or social needs. So when you look at the food sector, halal food sector, there's a big need and demand of a growing population. By 2025, there will be 8.9 billion people in this world to feed. 25% of them will be Muslims and growing faster than the rest of the world. So when we talk about innovation, we have to look at the need of serving, feeding people. Number 2, health. When you look at the health crises around the world, obesity, some of the biggest health crises countries are Islamic countries. When you look at environmental degradation, again, a lot of impact of these sectors of food, travel, clothing has on environment as well. Or in clothing, you have to look at ethical clothing, or in travel, responsible travel, ethical cosmetics, etc. So when we talk about technology and innovation, in our view, you have to start from here, because technology by itself is an enabler. It's a tool. It's not an end in itself. Just to give you some picture on just the society needs part, did you know that the Islamic countries or OIC member countries are some of the worst in terms of malnutrition? They represent 30% of the global population that has malnutrition based on FAO's numbers. If you look at, or did you know that some of the worst countries in the world when it comes to food wastage are OIC member countries in terms of food wastage. Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, UAE, and so forth. Did you also know that in terms of sustainable agriculture, again, some of the worst countries when it comes to water withdrawal are Islamic or OIC member countries? So to just summarize, if many of you may have heard of the SDG goals, United Nations SDG goals, across education, health services, sustainable communities, all hunger, again, some of the worst affected communities around the world are Islamic countries. So the question is, from a technology innovation point of view, as well as the purpose of the halal economy, we talk about commercial needs of consumers and industry, but this is an area that has to also be looked at. So I talked about the general halal economy first. Now, let's talk about the technologies and innovation. Before we look at what is happening in the halal economy space, let's, in a summary, look at the latest technologies and innovations available to us from around the world. Again, looking at these technologies, we have to look at the purpose of where and how these technologies can be applied. So specifically, across the sectors and across the needs, we have summarized these as the big buckets of technology and innovations that are prominently available for us. They're not being applied, they're available. And let me kind of go through them quickly. Later on, I'll talk to you about where the gaps are. So there's a whole host of food tech technologies that are enabling, and I'll give you some examples. For example, online or web or mobile-based food delivery services, or within the supply chain, facilitating supply chain services, and those are called food tech technologies. A lot of topics being covered at this conference are related to also biotech and genomics and their role in food development and its improvement. A whole new area that's developing technologically that a lot of industries, including food industry or pharma, cosmetics, they're all immersed in is artificial intelligence. The role of artificial intelligence in identifying needs, in processing big data to come up with new product concepts, validate them, test them, get feedback. That's a whole area of technology that's called artificial intelligence. Robotics in terms of manufacturing practices. Fintech in terms of sustainable or crowdfunding or other ways and means of processing financing. 3D printing in terms of manufacturing, interestingly, including in the food space. Augmented reality and virtual reality in terms of giving customers the experience of the different sectors and product services. Nanotech, and one of our participants later on will inshallah be talking about the role of nanotech in halal industries, but in other opportunities. Renewables, solar, other alternative energy sources as technologies. A new big area, blockchain, and I think we're going to hear, we have a presentation, I believe tomorrow, around the topic of how blockchain is being applied to bring transparency in the supply chain of the halal economy. Internet of Things, where you have sensors and all different touch points of a manufacturing or customer experience that's connected through the internet to bring operational efficiencies, product innovation efficiencies, etc. So collectively, we have identified these are really the big buckets. And of course, each one could be a whole day or days of conference and discussion. But in summary, these are the technologies that are available to us when we talk about halal economy. Some of the applications today of these technologies, not necessarily in halal, but in general, when earlier I talked about food, social needs. So if you look at sustainable agriculture as a challenge, some of the technology responses or solutions that are being applied worldwide include the leveraging of big data, GPS-enabled tractors, genetic modification, synthetic biology, vertical farming, drones, sensors, robots. These are all technologies being applied worldwide today to address the challenges around sustainable agriculture. Also for health food solutions, I mentioned that some of the worst countries when it comes to food wastage are actually, in fact, Islamic countries. So what are some of the tools and technologies that are and innovations available in the market? Honestly, not really being utilized by us, but more in the developed markets, relate to how do you, in terms of undernutrition, bring education campaigns using technologies, or in terms of addressing obesity and overweight, bring low sugar, low fat, low salt product alternatives, and really restricting advertising and so forth. So these are some of the innovation processes that are being utilized in addressing food wastage around the world. Okay, so I shared with you now the universe of available technology innovations. What's happening in the halal economy when it comes to innovation? So here are some examples. I'll just go through some examples of what's happening. In the halal food space, we're starting to see a lot of food delivery or food services coming up, especially in non-Muslim majority countries. Like this is an app in UK called Halal Eats that helps people find halal food and restaurants easily. You have Halal Dining Club that you can actually register and book restaurant tables. This is one out of Moscow, out of Russia. So a lot of such services starting to pop up, especially where Muslims are minorities or are not completely majority. This is an example in the halal food sense of porcine tracing kit, DNA testing for porcine. And again, in this conference, we're going to be hearing and a lot of around testing and identification. And so there's technologies or tools that have been and products that are come to market specifically for this purpose. Halal food compliance, there's a lot of technology that is starting to come online. Halal blockchain-based traceability is a very exciting proposition. We know of a couple of projects that are starting to come and come to play. How that will result in an overall implementation, that is yet to be seen, but it's certainly a big need that I think, if effectively implemented, can really facilitate strong halal compliance trust from the market and make it efficient, cost-effective. In terms of moving to other sectors, let's look at the travel space. So in terms of travel space, for Hajj and Umrah pilgrims, there's this e-bracelet. There's a Muslim versions of Airbnb that have come up in Europe and US. Here's a very interesting product called Wudu Pal for people to do wudu in a very efficient way as they're traveling. So there's a lot of innovation that's coming up in the halal travel space. In the clothing space, we have now innovations where entrepreneurs are using newly advanced materials in creating clothing. This one is a solar-powered abaya. This is a project from US where a climate-adapting material is being developed for veils and hijab, and a lot of other similar things being applied on the clothing space. In the cosmetics and pharma, halal vaccine is a big area of innovation now, and AJ Pharma, which is a Saudi and Malaysian collaboration, is working on that. Wudu-friendly nail polishes, a lot of you may have heard of Inglot and others alike, are also innovations. And we've done a whole report on digital Islamic economy, and you can get this from our website as well. We've highlighted that Muslims worldwide, just in terms of digital spending, spend around $107 billion. It's a $107 billion economy that includes spending as well as advertising income that relates to Muslim consumers. We have identified where across all of the digital universe, what types of halal economy related products exist today and where are the gaps. Everything from information and media content solutions, functional tools in terms of productivity, etc. Commerce and exchange, which is a lot of activity in terms of e-commerce, and then social networks. So here's sort of a hotspot of what are the players, and there are over 300 such projects in the report that we've identified. So I gave you a little bit of a picture, and we started off by defining the halal economy scope. We looked at the available technologies. We looked at some example of halal economy innovations. And let me conclude now by giving you a summary of the gaps. So really, if you remember from my earlier diagram on the available technologies, what we see today, current activity, yes, there are some food tech innovations. We have biotech genomics to a certain degree, but I believe it can really go beyond just for the purposes of halal, porcine testing, etc. I think in terms of product innovation, it also needs to come. So I would say it's reactive than proactive use of innovation or technology in biotech genomics. Food tech has some product innovation. FinTech, there's a lot of crowdfunding platforms that are coming up. In fact, a lot of halal economy startups are using it. Other than that, and blockchain, as I said, is just something that's starting. Other than that, not much more than that. So there is a lot of areas that need to be looked at when it comes to innovation in halal economy across the sectors, not just in food, but in all these areas. So hopefully this gives you a good menu. And when we look at these technologies, like I said, you have to look at how it applies to consumer needs, applies to industry efficiency, and society needs. This will give us a comprehensive view of how to look at technology across these needs. From a gap of actual application of those technologies, we're seeing some activity in product innovation, some in industry efficiency, a lot in halal economy regulation, compliance, training, and R&D. But very little, almost nothing from a social needs point of view. Almost nothing happening here. Product design as well, not much being applied when it comes to halal economy or technology innovation, when it comes to other cost effectiveness, etc. So ladies and gentlemen, hopefully that gave you a brief overview. Our firm, DinarStandard, we are a Islamic economy focused growth strategy consultancy. Consider us, inshallah, the McKinsey of the Islamic economy. And if you want to get in touch with me, my email is up here. Thank you so much. Kapun Krap. If there are any questions or questions.
Is there any question for the floor? For your information, you also can ask the question by using QR code that we are given for you in front of the room. And you can use your mobile phone to scan the QR code and ask the question in the mobile phone so that the speaker can see in the monitor. Right now, thank you for Mr. Rafi-uddin Shikoh for your wonderful presentation. And may I invite Dr. Wanida, the Deputy Director of the Halal Science Center, to give the token of appreciation to our keynote speaker. Next, may I invite our moderator of this session, Dr. Zenaida Laidan, the Regional Director of Halal Development Program, Ministry of Science and Technology, Philippines, to please take the seat on the stage. Please welcome her. And may I also invite other speakers for this session, Assistant Professor Dr. Minhaz Udie, Ahmed from University Brunei Darussalam, Professor Dr. Dhilia Udie, Lamasudin, Universiti Putra, Malaysia, Assistant Professor Dr. Amani Salim from International Islamic University, Malaysia, And I have to tell you that Dr. Bahmed bin Muhammad Rafiz, he could not attend this conference because he cannot make visa on time. So the Professor Dr. Jamaluddin Darwish will be the representative, replace him for this session. Please welcome him. So now I will leave the floor to Dr. Laidan. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, our theme for this session is an epitome of the ever-changing milieu we live in. New era, age of knowledge, digital economy, globalization, these are the bywords used to refer to today's world. And advancement in science, technology, and innovation is leading us further towards a free-willing society. We heard of concepts and approaches towards building smart cities, like integrated multiple information and communication technologies, making our lives easier, enjoyable, and much more efficient. And we look forward to creating a smart world. On the other hand, considering the teachings of Islam, we Muslims have far more things to do to secure our halal culture, the very culture we ought to protect, conserve, and promote amidst global challenges and changes. Halal being at the core of Islamic principles as our way of life, not just a lifestyle, but a quality way of life. How to keep up or cope with the rapid and dynamic attribute of change in this modern world has always been the ultimate concern of every nation for its people to improve their quality of life and attain a better future. If smart living seeks to improve the human living condition by enhancing the integrated system of people, technology, and environment, how would we do that in the halal way? The Philippine Ministry or the Department of Science and Technology, being the premier body of the government of the Philippines, mandated to provide central direction, leadership, and coordination of all scientific and technological efforts in the country, as well as formulate science and technology policies, plans, programs, and projects in support of national development agenda, is responsive to the 0+10 agenda of our President, His Excellency Rodrigo Roa Duterte, who recognizes the importance of science and technology, which includes, among others, among its sectors. The Philippine Development Plan is anchored on the country's long-term vision, dubbed as Ambition Natin 2040, in English version, Our Vision in year 2040. A matatag, strong, maginhawa, prosperous, and panatag na buhay and peaceful life. Philippine Development Plan Chapter 14 on vigorously advancing science, technology, and innovation falls under the pillar on patuloy na pag-unlad, increasing potential growth. The Science, Technology, and Innovation chapter focuses on two strategies, namely, promote technology adoption and stimulate innovation. We promote commercialization and utilization of technologies from publicly funded research and development. Develop a vibrant intellectual property rights culture for increased science, technology, and innovation utilization in agriculture, industry, and service sectors. We encourage more innovative financing mechanisms and private sector investments, as well as provide support mechanisms for startups and micro, small, and medium enterprises for increased investments in science and technology-based startups, enterprises, and spin-off companies. We also strengthen support to research and development agenda, increase funding for human resource development, tap foreign and overseas Filipino expertise, strengthen science, technology, and innovation infrastructure, establish and promote innovation hubs and other similar mechanisms, and foster science and technology and innovation culture for enhanced creative capacity for knowledge and technology generation, acquisition, and adoptions. We also strengthen tripartite collaboration, intensify international cooperation in science and technology, strengthening open collaboration among actors in the science, technology, and innovation system. This means that we need to leverage science and technology to come up with new and better products, processes, services, and systems which will have the primary objective of improving lives. Being at the front line, we implement program on innovative science and technology for better change, which is an accelerated research and development program for capacity building of research and development institutions and industrial competitiveness under the headship of our Minister or Secretary, Honorable Fortunato de la Peña. We are integrating smarter technologies into our current research and development programs. The convergence of scientific and technological know-how with smart technologies based on Islamic values enables us to attain significant improvements in the quality and productivity of our research outputs. For more than a decade now, we have been implementing the Philippine Science and Technology Program for the development of the halal industry, transforming lives, building an inclusive community for economic growth and sustainable development through the advancement of halal science and technology for a smarter Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, to share with us new dimensions to the existing collective strengths we have as advocates of halal, let us all acknowledge our esteemed speakers in this session on advance in science and technology for a smart world. And before I call in the next speaker, I would like to ask our esteemed speakers that I hope we can stick to the time allotted for each of us, and due to time constraints, and we will entertain questions already. To the audience, we will entertain questions after the four speakers have presented their topics during the open forum. And without much ado, at this point, I would like to call in the first speaker, who will be discussing on the point of case diagnosis in halal perspectives. And let us call in the Assistant Professor Dr. Minhaz-uddin Ahmed. He is from the University of Brunei, Darussalam, at the Biosensor and Biotechnology Laboratory, Faculty of Science. His area of expertise is on molecular, biological, and biochemical techniques, biosensor. And he obtained his Doctor of Philosophy in Chemical Material Science, Japan, in the Japan Advanced Institute of Science and Technology in 2008, and obtained his Master of Science in Biochemistry and Molecular Biology from the University of Dhaka, Bangladesh in 2001, and also obtained his Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh in 2000. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome our first speaker, Dr. Minhaz-uddin Ahmed.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Session Chair Dr. Zenaida. Today I'm going to talk about topic from market to food plate, advanced and reliable testing methods towards halal point of care diagnostics. Why it is towards? Because we are moving forward towards the point of care diagnostics. So it requires a lot of work, and we have started for last couple of years. So I am representing Universiti Brunei Darussalam, which is a #1 university in Brunei. And our projects, we have multiple projects on halal food analysis. The projects are being funded by Ministry of Education, Brunei Research Councils, and different other agencies. And to perform our works and also to be globalized, being a global citizen, we are also collaborating with many international universities, institutes, like you can see the Imperial College to Harvard University and also NUS. So we'd like to acknowledge everybody. So this is my group. We have a couple of graduate students, undergraduate students, and also research assistants who are actively working in the halal food analysis and also different other biosensor modality development. So these are actually a couple of our works we have performed, developed last couple of years towards point of care diagnostics, from DNA detection chips to protein detection chips, and also different other platforms like microfluidics and paper-based platforms. So moving forward, so based on the knowledge what we have got in the last couple of years, we are thinking why not we merge these state-of-the-art methods for the point of care halal food analysis. And then we have started from last 5 years, we have started different projects, how we can come up with very reliable and trustworthy porcine detection strategies. So to do that, we have actually chosen 2 biomarkers, that is one is DNA and another one is protein. You know, the halal food analysis is a huge area, halal food analysis. So there are many other areas like personal care or many other things, halal food chain. Anyway, so since we are representing from Brunei, it's very important, being Brunei is a Muslim majority country, it's very sensitive and important discipline due to fundamental ties to the Islamic religious rituals. So therefore, we are focusing always towards advanced, effective and reliable analytical and bioanalytical testing methods. Today's plenary speakers, actually, he covered almost everything regarding the impact of the halal food analysis, halal food. And apart from halal food, he also discussed in many other areas. He also presented nicely many aspects of or many impact on global economy on other areas, technology, and many other areas. Anyway, you can see the consumer expenditure is expected to be around 3 million by 2018, meaning that it has got huge economic impact for the countries who are working on the halal foods. You can see here the global Muslim market is higher than the market of the China, United States, and Japan, meaning that the market itself in terms of population is higher in the world. For our project, we have chosen a couple of samples. Like the most challenging part was for us working with the raw and processed foods, because it was not easy to come up with the required biomarker extraction purifications to detect the sensor and come up with a pure quantity of DNA and proteins to detect them in traces level. Anyway, we have tried our best in different types of sample you can see in the slides. So these are the works we have performed. The works in the yellow color, 3D chips, we are working on now. Maybe next year or within 2 to 3 years, we will come up with more results or data, and we can publish it and we can show in the conferences like this. We have chosen multiple methods like electrochemical electrochemiluminescence. We have also worked on the paper magnetic beads and also qPCR, but there are many qPCR kits exist in the market, but we are trying in alternate methods. I'm going to talk about it later. We have also worked on the porcine protein detections using the advantage of the nanofiber, carbon nanofibers. Is actually a special type of materials which is being developed due to the advancements of the nanobiotechnology. So this is the first work. So we have worked on the electrochemical porcine DNA detection. The whole idea is to work on the new nanomaterial, that is graphene. So we have actually we got some idea that how we can detect high-sensitive porcine DNA onto the nanomaterial. And then we actually compared our work on the normal carbon and the graphene nanomaterials. The idea was here, it's maybe the technical slide. So we took the advantage that the graphene binds to the DNA firmly compared to the carbon itself. And due to that different characteristics compared to carbon material, it actually helped us to detect the pork samples compared to non-pork. So we have tested different food samples. We have also tested different types of other species samples. And then we come up with the particular sensitivity, like around 100 picogram that time. And that sensitivity, we did this work back in 2016, and that was 200 times more sensitive than our previous report back in 2010. And then we actually, since it is a new method and new way of detecting porcine proteins, the whole idea was to amplify the porcine DNA isothermally, and then we detect the isothermal amplicons onto the graphene nanochips. And we could successfully patent the file, and then we moving forward to develop new other methods. We have also shown this work. Apart from this work, we have also shown other works to His Majesty the Sultan Haji Hassan al-Bolkiah back in 2014 in the Majlis Ilmu, and it was kindly appreciated by the Brunei government. That's the next work. We have also tried to work with a new way of detecting the porcine, that is electrochemiluminescence, because this technique is being used by the many developed countries like China, Korea, USA, and UK. But different groups working different targets, targeting different species, microorganisms, viruses. But we are thinking, why not we come up with new development, new way of detecting the porcine that is called electrochemiluminescence. Again, the idea is how we can detect the DNA onto the sensor substrate using the high or low photon emissions. So we could come up with clear differences that actually help us to detect multiple species, including porcine for sure. And then you can see we can come up with different sensitivity, we could selectivity, and also the overall we could come up with reduced detection times. Then we also tried in the paper substrate. The paper substrate, you can see you have papers in front of you. The idea was how we can detect the porcine onto the paper. So if it is onto the paper, you may not need a microscope or you may not need any detectors. It is a detector-free detections, meaning that we took the advantage of the chemistry, how the magnetic beads binds to the DNA. And then once it forms an aggregation, then you can actually put them onto the paper substrate and see the aggregation of the magnetic beads that you can see in here. So if you have the porcine in the sample, then it forms a aggregation onto the magnetic beads. If you don't have, then the paper will be like fainted in color. That is called negative sample. There are something you can see in here. There are some steps, but the whole point is, again, you don't need a detector. Your eye can actually detect the whole result. But we need to publish the work and we need to get some analytical results, and that's why whatever the spotting we are getting onto the paper substrate, we need to analyze the spot with a background using the image software, and then we come up with some bar diagram, and we have shown it is possible to differentiate analytically the porcine and non-porcine sample. And that time, of course, we could achieve the picogram level of sensitivity. And of course, you can see here, we have also compared with other species like goat, turkey, buffalo, horse, dogs. Moving forward, we have also worked on the lab-on-a-paper-based pork detections. Lab-on-a-paper, how it works, very interesting chemistry. So we have chosen a dye. That dye got some characteristics that when it's binds to the DNA, it forms a color, meaning that it forms a different complex, which forms a new color. If it cannot bind with the DNA, then it will not form any color. The paper substrate will be colorless. You can see, in presence of DNA, it looks like blue in color. The wax printing is being utilized by a couple of years in the Western world. So we are thinking, why not to use the wax printing technology and develop our own platform, and then using the new chemistry, we can detect the porcine DNA. And of course, since it is the paper-based method, it can be cost-effective. You can see the results. Whenever we have the porcines, the dots are blue in color. The other species are colorless. We have also worked with other species, different microorganisms, to show that the method itself can be versatile, so it can also be used for other species. Because if you want to publish in an American journal, so it's not good to show only the halal food analysis. You also need to show how diverse your method is for the global populations. That's why you also tried on the microorganisms. This is the real-time PCR-based method. Again, this is the DNA-based methods. The conventional qPCR actually requires one dye and one quencher, but we are also thinking that when the IDT developed the Zen probes, we are thinking that why not we try the 2 quencher and 1 dye. What's the advantage? The advantage is to get low background fluorescence and also improve sensitivity and precisions. And that actually we have got in our actual development. To do that, we have to come up with new primer designing. It took a while to optimize the primers. It's not cheap, but because it's a new dye, these dyes are patented, so we have to buy from US, and we incorporated all these dye in our design oligonucleotides, and we come up with the qPCR results. And yeah, we could actually got better result than the other qPCR methods like TACMAN porcine detection kits. And the sensitivity was quite impressive, as you can see in the slide. There are many species we have also tried, meaning that we have also checked the selectivity, and finally we could also publish. This is the work. We have also worked with the porcine serum albumin. Porcine serum albumin is a key element you might get in the food sample, because in many food samples there might be some traces amount of porcine proteins. We have used the nanotechnology methods, the carbon nanofiber. This is for the first time we have actually tried to show that how the porcine serum albumin can be detected in a high sensitive manner. We have also compared our results with the conventional ELISA, and its actual detection sensitivity is very high. You can see 500 femtogram per ml. So the advantage is if you have the nanofiber, you are introducing more active area to incorporate more antibodies. If you can incorporate more antibodies, that's the very critical recognition elements for the biomarker. So you can actually track traces of antibodies onto the sensor substrate. And that's the knowledge we have used to develop very sensitive porcine detection methods. And this work was published in the Food Chemistry Journal. The selectivity, specificity was also very good, and also we compared how the carbon nanofiber is far better than the only carbon nanomaterial or even graphene. This is the future outlook. I am almost finishing my presentation. So you can see how a halal porcine portable system, detection system can be developed. This is important. I need to spend a couple of seconds here. You can see, if you want to develop the point of care system, it's very important that we are actually moving towards multi-functionalities and also multi-disciplines. You can see, these are the technology we have matured enough, like wireless technology, nanotechnology, high-spec processors, optoelectronics, sensor, we have GPS system, we have different types of substrates. If you are aware of the paper, wood, cotton, cloth, bamboo, these things are the very exciting material for the futures to come up with point-of-care diagnostic system. We have also nowadays energy-efficient batteries. That's why in many devices, it can you can see the smartwatch can be used for up to 2 weeks to 1 month with one single charge. Meaning that if you are using all this technology in an integrated system or device, finally, it's possible to come up with a portable point-of-care diagnostic systems. So this is the exciting review we just published last year from Market to Fruit Pledge, Current Trusted Technology and Innovations in Halal Food Analysis. This is just, if you are interested, you can just Google the title, or you can email me, I can send you a copy to read. This is our new book on the food biosensor. We have published with a sponsor from the Royal Society of Chemistry. It covers most of the exciting biosensor methods for food analysis. And I believe these methods can also be used for the multiple areas of halal food analysis. That's all from my presentations. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, no question yet. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed, Congratulations, you have stick to the time limit. And our next speaker is an expert on food authentication via Proteomics, plant membrane transporter protein, bioactive peptides from marine organisms and algae, mollusk conservation. She obtained her Doctor of Philosophy in Infection and Immunity from the University of Glasgow, Scotland, United Kingdom in 2012, and her Master of Research in the area of Medical and Molecular Biosensors from the University of Newcastle upon Tyne, also in UK in 2005, and he's a Bachelor of Science also with biochemistry major in biochemistry from the University of Malaya, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, 2003. And he is the current professor of the Department of Cell and Molecular Biology, Faculty of Biotechnology and Biomolecular Sciences in the University, Putra, Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome our next speaker, Dr. Dhilia Udie Lamasudin, who will be speaking on the topic meat authentication via proteomic approaches. Let us give our speakers a big round of applause.
Assalamualaikum. Actually, I'm not a professor yet. It's been corrected in the brochure outside, but probably it's too late to correct it in today's brochure. But it's okay, I'm just Dr. Dhilia Udie Lamasudin. Okay. I'm a lecturer in Faculty of Biotechnology and Biomolecular Sciences, Universiti Putra, Malaysia. And also a research associate in Halal Products Research Institute in UPM as well. So I have few different projects, but for halal related project, my focus is more on the species identification in meat products using proteomics approach. Okay, the talk, my today's talk, this is the scope of my talk today. So we are going to go into a little bit of the background on what is proteomics, what is meat authentication. And then we'll go through several of the projects that I'm working on, and then we go into conclusion. Okay, why is food authentication is a big issue? First of all, the religious belief is very obvious that some of the religions, not only Muslim, not only Islam, they prohibited certain consumption of meat. For example, for Jews, they also, just like Islam, they prohibited pork meat consumption. And for the Hindus, they are not allowed to consume beef meat because cow is the sacred animal. So that's quite obvious reason why meat authentication is very important. And then in terms of health issues, allergies, certain individuals, they can react, they can develop allergies to certain meat. I know some of my friends, they have children which cannot consume chicken because chicken sometimes they can trigger allergies as well because of the eczema, skin allergies and so on. And then the other need for analysis for meat authentication, the reason why is to uphold the fair trade and also to protect the consumers' right and also the sellers' right, because the consumers, they have to know what do they consume. Okay, sometimes what's been written on the label or on the packages are not really what they are. So yeah, to protect the consumers' right. And also for the sellers, right now we have internet. There's a very rampant rumors being distributed saying that these sellers are not actually selling what they claim to be. But actually, it can be false allegation. So once the rumors has been spread, consumers believe the rumors, so the business of the sellers can be disrupted. All right. This is just to give the examples of the cases related to meat authentication. I think the most famous one is the horse meat found in IKEA meatballs. Although horse is halal for Muslim, but it's very unethical for the manufacturers saying that it's beef meat, but actually it's actually something else like horse, because horse is I think the reason why they're doing this adulteration is to create a big profit margin, because beef is very quite expensive meat compared to horse. And then this bakso is an Indonesian delicacy. One of the condiments they need to put meatballs. The meatballs usually they use mutton or beef, but there were rumors where they actually use red meat instead of beef because, again, to create profit margin. But this is just rumors. We do not know whether it's true or not. So the sellers will be affected by these rumors. So also in China, they also have this case where the sellers claim it's a mutton, but actually it's red meat. So the problem is that all this meat, when they are being selling on the market, it's already being processed, cut off. So the phenotype or the appearance of the animals is not there anymore. So if you put beef and buffalo side by side, you can't really tell which one is which. Okay, for Hindus, they can consume buffalo, they cannot consume beef. So they can create this confusion in the market. Okay, now we go into a little bit technical, but I try to make it simple for you. Okay, so how do we solve this meat authentication analysis? One way is to develop a marker, a molecular marker. Molecular can be DNA, it can be protein. And actually the most famous marker that have been used for meat authentication is DNA. But it has some limitation. So now the upcoming molecules that can be used as a marker is proteins. Okay, this is my interest. My research interest is looking for proteins to serve as a marker for meat authentication analysis. So what is proteomics? It's actually just a total protein content in a cell or in an organism, in a tissue. And so you can actually identify, just like DNA, certain species, they have a unique amino acid sequence. Just like protein, they have also a specific amino acid sequence to tell this is beef, this is pork, this is buffalo. Okay, but when we talk about meat authentication, we talk about meat products. Meat products like burgers, nuggets, they have gone through a lot of harsh processes like heating, like mechanical processes like cutting and dicing. So some of the molecules, especially the proteins, will be denatured, will be degraded, and you can't use protein actually. You only can use this structure, the primary structure of the protein. So for proteins, they actually have 4 structures, quaternary structures. That is the functional protein. Okay, then they have this tertiary structure that is part of the quaternary structure. All this quaternary, tertiary structure will be disrupted once it's being exposed to high temperature and after mechanical processes. But the only part of proteins that are being maintained throughout all this harsh treatment is the primary structure, just the sequence. So we are interested to look what is the amino acid sequence in pork, in buffalo, in horse, and so on. Okay. Okay, this is just a brief schematic diagram, the workflow of proteomics. Okay, we have the gel here, polyacrylamide gel. It can be 1D gel, 2D gel, but I won't go into that into detail. But what we do is we try to express all the protein that exist, let's say for in porks. And then we try in the gel, we can see the spots of the protein being displayed. And then we try to pick up the most, probably depending on the objective of the study, we'll pick up the spots that most intense, okay, the most strong signals being shown there. We cut the spots, send it for digestion by enzyme. So once it's being digested, we feed it into this we call this instrument is multi-mass spectrometry. So proteomics, the core instrument is the mass spectrometry. So this mass spectrometry, it will measure the peptides according to its mass over charge. So this protein, this peptide, they are charged molecules. And they have different molecular weight. So the separation of this peptide is based on the charge of the protein and the molecular weight of the protein. Okay, then this is an example of the chromatogram from the mass spectrometry. So let's say this is the peptide of interest. We only know from here we only know the molecular weight of the peptide, but we do not know what is the sequence. So we send it for another mass spec, MS analysis. Sorry to sound too technical, but I hope you get what I mean. So from there, we proceed with another analysis, MS analysis. Then the sequence of peptide can be identified. So this, for example, can be served as the peptide marker to identify the species in meat-based products. Like I just mentioned, the hardcore instrument for mass spectrometry, for proteomics study is a mass spectrometry. So this is the components of the instrument. We have the ionizer. So you need to ionize the protein first. If you don't ionize the protein, it won't get separated in the mass analysis. Once it gets ionized, it will separate by the mass of the charge. And then once we find the peptide of interest, we send it for further analyzation, cut it further into amino acids components. And from there, we know what are the sequences for the peptide marker that can be served as a marker for meat authentication analysis. Okay, this just to go into detail how you choose the peptide of interest and then how you determine the identity of the peptide. Okay, you take the peptide of interest, you send it for another MS, and then you get the sequence of the protein. So the sequence of the amino acids for this example is leucine, glycine, valine, leucine, asparagine, and glutamine. So this is one example. Okay. So as I mentioned, for proteomics to be a peptide marker, we are not really interested to look at the protein per se. We are more interested to look at the peptide sequence, which is part of the protein, because that's the only part that being maintained in the highly processed meat. Okay, the first example of my project is using this shotgun proteomics. Shotgun proteomics meaning we fractionate the protein just using a liquid chromatography. We don't involve gel electrophoresis. Okay, we use this this is the food matrices. So we chose the control, pork, beef, chicken, lamb, which is the most common meat that have been consumed. And then also we include some fish, tilapia, sela, and salmon, and then frog. Okay. Then we also include some of the commercial products in the market. So what we did, this is just simple methodological. We just cut it, weigh it, then send it for freeze drying. We grind it, and then we need to assess the protein extraction quality, and then send it for, this is the mass spec part, the mass spectrometry. So we use the trypsin. This one can be, other enzyme as well. So it's gone through the salting part, then the optimization of the mass spec. And then once we got the peptide, we run the statistical analysis and to choose which one, peptide of interest. And then we do the enhanced product ion to identify the identity of the peptide of interest. Okay, this just to show you, there's a quite significant, quite high of protein being extracted. So just looking at this, we can say that the method that we use, the buffer that we use to extract the protein, is workable. Yeah, it's efficient. Also, when we apply it to the commercial product using the same buffer, the same components, the protein also quite abundant. So quantitatively, we are happy with the extraction method. Okay, now, so this is to show you the results between the non-heated and treated control samples, the salmon, salar, tilapia, and frog. If you look at here, the fish, both the heated and the raw, being categorized at the same area, meaning that we have found the thermostable peptide marker. Okay. For this one is tilapia. Okay. This one is frog. This one is salmon, and this one is salar. Salmon and salar is saltwater fish. Okay, tilapia and frog is freshwater fish. So, what interesting about this slide is that not only can it identify, not only the proteomics can identify different species, but if you look at this slide, it kind of can separate the freshwater, fresh and water and saltwater fish. So it's a kind of powerful methodology. And also, if you are not go into a mass spec analysis, you can just go into, just separate the protein according to its molecular weight. It also can separate this, the animals according to its species. Okay. Sorry, I have to go through fast. And then this is the molecular weight of the protein being expressed in a gel. Even between wild boar and pork also there's a very big difference there. So what it tells you that different animals, when they being raised or being fed with different diets and nutrients, they can affect the protein expression as well. Okay, for buffalo and wild boar, the difference is not much, probably because both of this sample is from farm animals, so there might be have some lot of similarities between these two. So the conclusion, proteomics is a powerful tool to identify species organisms in meat products. And peptide marker is suitable for authenticity analysis in highly processed meat like nugget, burger, and so on, due to its highly resistant to high temperature and mechanical processes. However, the cost and the requirement to only highly trained officers to operate the instrument have limited this application of proteomics in meat authentication analysis. With that, I end my talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dhilia. This time, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you our next speaker. She is an expert on micro and nanotechnology. She obtained her Doctor of Philosophy in Biomedical Engineering from the University of Purdue in 2009. And he obtained also his Master of Science in Electrical Engineering from the University of Minnesota 2003 and a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, University of Minnesota 2001. She is currently connected with the International Islamic University, Malaysia, as assistant professor in the Department of Biotechnology Engineering, Faculty of Engineering. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome our next speaker, Dr. Amani Salim, to talk on the topic Nanomaterials-based Biosensors for the Halal industries. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Dr. Zenaida, for the kind introduction. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this conference. I don't usually belong to this Halal community conference. However, my background is mostly on sensors, technology, and applications in a very harsh environment, okay? Such as I develop sensors, for example, for spaceflight applications, okay? I work with NASA project several years where we send sensors to space, okay? For single cell detection, biological detection. So it was the first biology-related nanosatellite project that was launched in space in April 2014. I would like to start my talk here by giving a different perspective of how I see technology and halal and how they are related and how, inshallah, we can push together halal-related inventions, technologies, and so forth forward. As you can see here, I was intrigued by the talk of our plenary speaker today. Thank you for that talk, because it gives you the whole perspective of where we stand as Muslims in this halal business, okay, in this halal industry, or what we want to call it, okay, and the rest of the value chain, okay. So until we understand that, okay, it is even hard to innovate, okay. So the way I look at it is this. If you can see in this page, right, these are actually sensors that I developed when I was in the United States for the Environmental Protection Agency. Okay, what it is a ball, okay, that you put in the potable water pipeline, okay, which detect, for example, pH, temperature, the regular things, but also added things such as the biology, and also the chemicals that are in the potable water system. It is actually for tampering purposes, okay? So if there's tampering, it informs the SCADA monitoring system that it is being tampered, and the whole system is alerted, okay? However, when you look at this technology, you said, okay, it is only a water technology. However, it is not only for that, because the components of this technology are various, such as, okay, what does it have? It has the sensors, which was presented by the previous speaker, okay? 2 previous speakers on the sensors. It also has the energy harvesting capability, okay? It has energy storage capability. So one technology has several values added products that can be pushed further. Now, talking about nano, right? Where do we stand now in our inventions and our discovery? Okay, if you look, in the early 2000s, right, we talk a lot about passive nanostructures, or we call it the first generation products. And when I look at the halal inventions, the publications, and talking to researchers in the halal domain, is that I found a lot of the work that is being used is this in passive nanostructures. For example, using colloids, composites, incorporating nanostructures as coatings for emulsification, or changing maybe the looks of products, aesthetics, texture, and so forth. Okay, so that's a passive nanostructure. That frame number 1 is where we at. When you move to other things, such as, okay, that's in the early 2000s. Okay, we are 2017 now. I'm showing how science and technology move very fast. Okay, 2000, we have active nanostructures, such as, targeted drug delivery, okay? Bio devices, 3D transistors, IBM is working on it, amplifiers, and so forth. That is active nanostructures. That's around 2000, 2005. A lot of the biosensors work, for example, using enzymes, DNA, and so forth, involved in this active nanostructures phase, okay? But then things starts getting exciting when things go to the third phase, okay? Which is the systems of nanosystems, okay? Such as robotics, hierarchical architectures, networking among the nanosystems, okay? And finally, where we are now, even nanotechnology has led to evolution. For example, this is a lot of the work of my peers in the US currently going on now, is basically they managed to control nanomachines, okay? Or even nanomaterials to do what they want them to do, okay? To the level of controlling nano at this stage, okay? Now, when it comes to this second phase, right, the frame number 2, the risk governance of it and how you handle it, okay? For example, nano, a big thing when I said to people about nano in a lot of the inventions in biomedical, because I'm a biomedical engineer, right, is that what is the risk of nanotechnology? And it has not been addressed yet, even till now, right? What is the risk of having nano? Okay? So these are the things that are where we are at now in terms of nanotechnology. And I'm going to take a case study, okay? Because when I look into this nanotechnology and halal domain, okay, I first pick the most popular, it is food industries. And when I look into the food industries, I look at people focus on the food packaging, the sensors, okay, indicators, or we call it, okay, smart food packaging, monitoring, okay. So for example, when in terms of the blockchain traceability, as was talked by the plenary speaker, this monitoring issue is a big thing, such as quality, safety, the trade and transport can all be traced in a whole ecosystem, one chain, right? I'm not going to talk about the rest because I think this is the strength of a lot of people here, which is the feelers, encapsulation, nanostructuring, and aesthetics, okay? And a lot of time when I read on halal is that people do a lot of this monitoring because they want some sort of quality assurance, okay? People demand for safe food, free from contaminants, wholesome food, and compliance to government regulations of each country, okay? People trace such as heavy metals, microbiological, alcohol, pesticides, herbicide, and so forth, and the lists are a lot. People talk about food spoilage, for example, what causes food spoilage, okay? Oxygen, the time, physical stress or abuse, and so forth, okay? And people talk about food packaging, okay? And also its involvement and effect on the food spoilage. People talk about increasing food shelf life, such as from spoilage, from bacteria, loss of nutrients, and also nanotechnology itself to improve the food packaging. Examples I received from Allah Yarham, Prof Sharifah B. She's a big person in Malaysia in nano. She works on, her group works on, for example, nanoparticles reinforced composites. Okay? Nanoparticles that can absorb pesticide residues from the agriculture production, and also the nanoparticles to restrict permeation of gas in these packages, which I give for example, the regular commercial food packaging use a modified atmosphere packaging, right? So that it won't be, the packaging won't be destroyed. Others include oxygen scavenging packages. So nanotechnology is used a lot to enhance a lot of these packaging products, okay? As indicators, okay? These are sensors we use, okay? Knowing colorimetric indicator. For example, if it's blue or green, the food is good. And if it's red, it's expired, right? Looking into all of this realm, I didn't reach my peak yet of my talk. I look at all of these and I see, a lot of things have been used in the user space are actually very simple. Okay? I look at the presentations, they're very good research. You know, strong science, proteomics, mass spec, you know, mass spec data, sensors that can do this and so forth. We can do a lot of things, right? But among all of these technology that gets into the domain of the user at the end, if you look, are indicators, you know, oxygen scavenging packages, okay? Very simple things that are, I call it like, it's not a Nobel Prize giving findings, right? Because these things I can teach a high school student to do in my laboratory, to do this, all of these things, right? However, I have experience working with one of the largest food producer. I'm not going to name the, well, you can see already which company it is, right? They're interested in, okay, so I'm going to the commercial domain space now. They're interested in, for example, their problem of the industry is that there's a lot of food waste. Huge food waste. Okay? This is the company Nestle, actually. Okay? Baby food. They're one of the large producer of baby food. One of the things that they have issues with when they come to technologies like me, okay, this is when the engineer, researcher has to meet the person in the marketing global domain. Okay? They said they have a huge food waste, and it costs them lots of dollars, money, right, of waste every year. One of them, food can be damaged through two things. One is the time they are on the shelf. Another one is tampering. For example, you put this on the shelf or even during transport, right? It can drop to the floor, damage, or, you know, open, we don't know who opened it, and so forth, tampering, right? So these two things are really huge problem that is facing by these huge food company, right? So when I look at this, okay, since this is a big problem, okay, how do we innovate for them, okay? So one of the things is, because I worked with NASA before, with the project 7 years, but really leading a project 3 years, is that one thing that I look at the way they do work, right? For example, the recycling of water, right? It actually, because they live in space, they have to use all the water to recycle, right? When it comes to the ground, right, it introduced a new technology that's relating to water recycling. And it is commerciable throughout the world, right? This is one. The second one I look at, in terms of tampering of food and so forth, can be related also to one of NASA Langley's smart skin sensor, where they have these sensors on aircraft, right? And when there's this damage and so forth, it can inform the control that, hey, it is damaged, right? What if we apply this to this? See, it's really connected, you know, like two technologies apply at two different places, okay, can also be applied in the food domain industry, okay? So, as a sensor person, when I look at innovation, these are the things that are involved in the sensors, okay? What are you targeting, which is a target molecule, recognition element, the biomarkers and so forth that the previous speaker talked about, the transduction, what are you using? Electrochemical, optical, whatever you want, right? The detector, the display, and the end user. It's a whole chain, right? We focus a lot on what, you know? We focus a lot on this. And this, because this is transduction, optical, you know, electrochemical, and so forth. However, we rarely focus on this, right? You don't focus on this, right? The end user, how does the end user receive from the whole innovation that occurs here, right? This whole thing cannot run. Okay? So, we are very good at this, mashallah. The researchers are very good at this. But here, This is where the input from the plenary speaker matters, to connect this whole chain of innovation. Okay? One of the things that I found issues, I give a case study because sensors, there's so many types, right? One example is ECAM sensors. It's very popular and very simple to do, okay, in the laboratories. You work, all of these involves interactions of people in the biochemistry domain, people in the nano domain, and also the electronic systems. These are electrical engineers, okay? So, when we look into that, okay, we develop things like this, okay? You develop the biochemistry, the materials, and you get the signal out, okay? This is all the sensor. This is I developed for NASA. We find out the photosynthetic activity of the algae into a chip, and we got a signal, just like shown in the previous researchers' talk. But I would like to end my talk with these 2-3 slides, okay? We have capability to build many types of sensors, right? However, looking at the food industry, as a case study, everything you know about food packaging and retailing is changing very fast. I'll give an example, okay? This is a sensor I developed, which is a portable sensor that can send a signal to a phone. Also sensors in the agricultural field where they talk to each other, okay? This is inspired from my little ball sensor in the water pipe which they talk to each other, okay? All of these sensors has to be embedded in this whole system, okay? For example, the satellites, this is precision agriculture. This is a smart factory, okay? This is, for example, from seed to signal, monitoring all the agricultural production and so forth, involving sensors, okay? Until all these sensors are not integrated into this whole system, it remains as sensors. It doesn't add the value to the whole production where we want for the blockchain traceability, one of the things that we're trying to do, right? So, this is another example where, you know, this is a cartons of egg, okay? People will know in terms of just-in-time delivery and so forth, from the phone, okay? So this is one innovation that occurs over there also, okay? So my talk, I would like to conclude, okay, is this. This is the whole thing we are in the nano space, okay? All of the innovations and so forth that fits into making sensors and so forth, but it comes with a few set of requirements and services and the way we deal with these technologies, okay? Until we integrate together the scientists, the technologists, the halal people in this room who knows how to commercialize the work, until that it remains as several separate segments. And we could not be separated, okay? We should work together and inshallah, find something that is worthy to push forward. I end my talk with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salim, for that quite interesting topic on biosensors. This time, ladies and gentlemen, actually we are fortunate that we have here an equally competent speaker who can take the place of Dr. Refis to expound on the topic Istihala and the extent of its achievements in the food industry practical methods. May we call in Professor Dr. Jamaluddin Darwis. Let us give him a big round of applause.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin, salatu wassalamu ala asyrafil mursalin wa ala alihi washabihi ajmain. First of all, I'd like to thank to the committee for giving me opportunity to share with you all relating to education. My portion is about education, about the social life. It is different from the other colleagues, the presenters, much more relating to food technology, the substance of the food, how to produce the food, and the last one about nano, how to pack the food in food packaging. Brothers and sisters, first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm from Islamic University, Muhammadiyah University in Semarang. And in Indonesia, Muhammadiyah is one of the biggest Islamic organization, which has hundreds of hospitals and thousands of schools and about 177 universities. And one of the universities, I work in that university. So my background is education, social life education, not related to what has been discussed here about the food technology. So would you please, I apologize that I don't prepare with the slides because of lack of the time, and I'm just going to talk a brief discussion about education and bit relating to food technology, to food as a consumption for human life. Talking about education, we all understand that education is embedded in your life, in human life. Education started since the life of Prophet Adam. So when Adam is as a messenger of God, God says in the Holy Quran, the first human being in this life, in the earth, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. In the chapter of Baqarah, verse 31, and God taught Adam the names of all things, asma'a kullaha. So education is vital in human life for those who are going to achieve the better life. Education is the process of transferring knowledge and skill, but we should not neglect. The education is also transferring value of life. The element of Islamic education emphasize life guidelines that direct human being, individual and social, to search knowledge, direct human being to know the better life in the future, in which one is accordant with the teaching of Islam as was written in the Holy Quran and exemplified by the Prophet Muhammad. So education is a kind of protection and also a preparation for the future, for the better future life by equipping the human being, the younger generation with value, knowledge, and skill to face the real life. Nation will risk their future generation if the nation does not pay any attention to education. As what is said also by God in the Holy Quran, Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu ku anfusakum wa ahlikum naro. Al-Hujurat verse 6. O ye who believe, protect yourself and your family, your future life from the hell of the fire. This verse orders all human beings, especially who believe in God, to protect and to prepare the future life, to protect from the disaster in the here life disaster in the hell, but also the disaster which might happen in this worldly life by believing in God, giving good example, and also by doing good education. So education is kind of preparation and also in protection by physically in this kind of seminar, talking about food by avoiding all unlawful or haram food on drink. Food is vital substance for maintaining life, to survive in this life. The consumption of food is main resources for producing energy, for healthier life, physically, psychologically, as well as spiritually. The protection by becoming Muslim, according to Muslim belief, in all aspects of life, a life which is based on Sharia as Islamic way of life, spiritually, biologically, psychologically, and socially. Spiritually, by believing in God, the Almighty, and good conduct. We call it as amal soleh. Biologically, by eating or drinking halal food, avoiding which is haram or forbidden by Sharia. And psychologically, by having moral akhlaqul karimah, integrated personality, and socially by helping others, becoming Muslim, giving benefit to other people. And it is said by God, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, udkhulu fis silmi kafah, wala tatabi'u khutuwati syaitan, innahu lakum aduwwum mubin. Oh ye who believe, enter into Islam wholeheartedly, fully, and do not follow the footsteps of the evil, the shaitan, for the evil is to you the avowed or real enemy. We have to become Muslim in all aspects of life, including in our dietary, in our intake, in our food and drink. Back to education. We talk about education. There are at least there are two influential factors in the process of education: internal factors and external factors. Internal factors can be classified into physical aspect, the health, the senses, eyesight, hearing, other physical condition. The psychological aspects, including intelligence, motivation, attitude, aptitude, memory, and other psychological factors. Spiritual aspect, belief in Allah, in one God, the Almighty, the spirit of obeying God, obey good conduct, the spirit of pursuing knowledge, and the belief that pursuing knowledge is obligatory. It is ordered by God. The dua, the prayer asking God help, mercy, and guidance. And external factors can be classified into social aspect, physical aspect, and spiritual aspect. Social aspect can be family, that's father, mother, and all members of the family. Family play important role in shaping the future life of the children. So, creating favorable condition in the family is kind of a must to educate the children according to the value of Islam. The other social factors are educational institution, from infant school, from childhood in school up to university, which also have an important role in building the future life for the younger generation. Social organization as well, such as social community and among the masjid or the mosque community, are also very important in shaping the future generation. So, we talk about the external factors. External factors, physical factors, that is environment and also intake in diet, in food and drink. The diet, because it is very vital, very important for human life, it is protected by Islamic law, Islamic rule, by giving a guidance what is lawful or halal and what is haram or unlawful. The diet or intake, food and drink, should be in accordance with the Sharia. So how come we want our children to be good Muslim, good human being, believe in God, the Almighty, have good conduct, while the diet for the children are not healthy and not halal? How come? It doesn't make sense. If we think about the contributive influence factors in education, we have also to think and believe that dietary intake, food and drink, should be taken into account in terms of its status. What I mean is the diet that should be halal, especially for building character, or building good character according to Islamic law. I think that's all for my presentation. And thank you very much for your warm attention. And I do hope that a very brief presentation from me will be give benefit for you all. And just one proverb that I remember for my student. The my student said like this: if you have a dream, a wish, ambition, write down your dream in your eyelids. And then close your eyes tightly. Open your eyes, your dream comes true. While closing the eyes for the students, for the learners, it's been focusing on achieving the goal. The aim to be a student, to be a learner. So we have to be keen, to be diligent, to learn to study, to avoid all things that's a kind of obstacle or hindrance in achieving our goal. That's why, again, I repeat again. If you have a dream, write down your dream in your highlights. It is our ambition, our vision, student vision. And close your eyes. Write down, close your eyes, focus on your goal, on your aim, on your objective to the student. It takes years to achieve the goal, to do good and avoid all things that's a kind of obstacle in achieving the goal. And then open your eyes, your dreams come true. I think that's all for my presentation. I apologize if there are some mistake in my presentation. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dares. This time, let us now... ready?
Test. Thank you all our honorable speakers and moderators for giving a fruitful session. So right now I would like to invite Ms. Sulida Wangji to give a token of appreciation to our moderators and all the speakers.
The question and answer? The open forum? No open forum? We have saved time for 20 minutes. Yeah. No? They might have a question.
Okay.
And I have conclusive conclusions also. Okay. So let us now have the open forum for the question and answer. We would like to invite questions from the audience. For those who would like to ask questions, please approach the microphone nearest you, and you first state your name and the organization you belong, and also to the speakers, to whom you would like to address your question. Okay, so I would like to invite. It's Friday.
Yes, for your information, for those who want to,
We would like to dispense of our question and answer portion of this session to fulfill our commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to perform our Friday prayers. Thank you very much.
for your information, for those who want to get e-certificate, please scan your QR code before going out at exit door. And then for those who wish to pray for Friday praying, you can pray at hall EH99. And after that, we will have Janazah prayers for Dr. Surin Pisuwan at 3:30 p.m. at the same hall. Now, may I invite Ms. Sulida Wangji, the Assistant for Foreign Affairs, to give token of appreciation to all our speakers and moderators. Please come on the stage. And we will have lunch break for 1 hour, so please be back here at 2 p.m. Thank you. Dr. Minhaz. Thank you. Next speaker, Dr. Dhilia. Thank you. Next speaker, Assistant Professor Dr. Amani Salim. And last one, Professor Dr. Jamaluddin Davis.
มาชื่อตลอดเลยความที่มันไม่ก็มันไม่มีในนี้ก็ลืมสิ
And may we have a group photo for all the speaker and moderators? And keynote speaker as well, the important person of this session.
ต้องเชิญสิไม่ได้ไม่
And may we also have individual photo started from Dr. Rafi. Individual photo, please. With Mr. Rafi first. Start with Mr. Rafi first.